glorious Friday morning here in Los Angeles, the city of angels, as the baseball gods were shining down on Oracle Park last night. The Dodgers defeat the San Francisco Giants 2-1 in Game 5 of the National League Division Series. The Dodgers move on to the NLCS in a rematch with the Atlanta Braves tomorrow night. First pitch at 5:07 right here on your home of the Dodgers, AM 570 LA Sports. I am Tim Cates, joined by two-time World Series champ, former Rookie of the Year, and one Dodger great, Steve Saxon. Saxy, we have a treat right now. Joining us from TBS, he was on the call last night. 12 years in the major leagues, an all-star, a World Series champ. He now broadcasts Mets game. He's also on the TBS broadcaster in the regular season, MLB Network. And he was on the call last night with Brian Anderson on TBS at Oracle Park. He is Ron Darling, and he joins us now here on AM 570 LA Sports. Ron, good morning.
Hi, guys. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
hi, Ron. How you doing, buddy?
Hi, Steve. How you doing, Saxy?
Good to be with you. Hey, Ron. There's so many different elements of this series from the whole season, and then coming down now to postseason. This epic battle between these guys. We'll get into it a little bit, but how about just an overall synopsis on your part?
Well, what a season for these two teams as they battled it out. The division still counts, so they played for it all season long. To be 1-1 going into the ninth inning, just amazing. Played evenly all season long. It's just a real testament to their talent, both sides, talent and toughness, that they were able to put on a show like they did last night for us. You knew it was going to be an epic game. You didn't know how it was going to play out. And I said in the broadcast last night, I just always think Dodgers history, because it's so deep and long, is amazing because it repeats itself. So on the anniversary of Sandy Koufax pitching on 2 days rest in 1965, a complete game in Game 7. You have Max Scherzer coming back on 2 days rest to get the first save he's ever got in his professional career. It was just an amazing game.
Yeah, it's a great point. And, the Dodgers really, what they did with this bullpen, I think it kind of separated themselves from the Giants, Ronnie, in that, the last three guys that came in for the Dodgers, and Trinan, Jansen, and Scherzer, those 9 outs, they got 6 of those via the strikeout. You're talking about great velo down there in that bullpen, and they just, I think, separated themselves by having that depth that everybody talks about. And on the other side with the Giants, in Duvall, he has a history of hitting people and kind of losing his control, and I think that just kind of peaked up a little bit and was enough to win the game.
Steve, that's the great point. I mean, that really was the separator. I thought in the past, and I could be wrong, but I've always thought in the past that the Dodgers were almost a complete team, but depth in the bullpen was something that you could always look at and say, boy, you wish you had one more arm or two more arms. Well, that's not an issue anymore. The people they bring in from that bullpen are amazing. You think of Blake Trinan. Blake Trinan with maybe Josh Hader, I think, with the Brewers, might be the two most important relievers in the game. And Kenley Jansen, after he had that little hiccup, I think he had 3 blown saves right in the middle of July. After that, and changing his style a little bit, has made himself back into one of the most feared relievers in the game. So that was the advantage. It always was the advantage, and Dave Roberts used it to his advantage.
Ron Darling with us here on AM 570 LA Sports. You can see him on TBS. We'll have the call of the NLCS coming up. Game 1 is tomorrow night. He was on the call last night with Brian Anderson up at Oracle Park. The game ended on a check swing from Wilmer Flores. He was rung up by Gabe Morales, the first base umpire. We can all agree it probably wasn't a strike. It was a swing that he checked, but the game ended that way. The baseball gods were shining on the Dodgers last night, Ron.
Yeah, it was. It was, it was a mistake by Gabe, and the check swing call, and Steve will tell you, is probably the most difficult for a base umpire because there's no rule, there's no feel. I've talked to many umpires about it, and they say they want to feel as though the batter offered at the pitch. Certainly Flores didn't, but the Giants had many opportunities, not many, but they had a few opportunities to dent and get some runs during that game. I just think, in my opinion, if you're a first base umpire and a right-handed hitter or a third base umpire or a left-handed hitter, that you have to see a definitive kind of check swing to call that, because you never want to be an umpire to make the call to end the game that was as epic as that one was last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ron, I agree, and there's no way that was a swing. But you know what? The script could have been flipped with the situation with Darren Ruff, I think in July, against on a swing that he had completely taken. They called it a check swing. It changed it changed the game, the outcome of the game, which would have meant that it could have changed the complexity of the outcome of this, and the Dodgers could have very well won this division, and we would have been playing Game 5 at Dodger Stadium. But that's neither here nor there. It was a missed call, but you know what? It kind of goes back and forth. But I wanted to ask you, or point out with Mookie Betts, going 4 for 4, the cream comes to the top. And Cody Bellinger is really starting to zone in a little bit. When you pitch him up in the zone, and you being the great pitcher that you were, you know that you have a liability, or he can be a liability for that team if you pitch him letter up. But if you get that ball down in the zone, especially something off speed that doesn't hit the dirt, Cody Bellinger can be a severe weapon for this team, and that's what happened when he hit that missile to right center.
Well, first about Mookie Betts, one of the best players in the game. I know he didn't have the kind of season he wanted, injuries and other things. But I was thinking as you were going over Mookie's night, that was a real Steve Sachs game last night. 4 hits, a stolen base, steals a run. That was really a Steve Sachs game. And,
Thank you.
And as far as Bellinger is concerned, I said it last night. You have a chance when you've had a lost season, and we all had one. You have a lost season to make up for it when you're in the postseason. And that, that average that he had all year gets wiped off the board, a clean slate. You got a chance to do what you can do. I know injuries have played a big part in his inconsistency this year, but we're talking about one of the best players in the game when he's right. I thought, Steve, that it was just it was a strange approach that Doval took against Bellinger, in my opinion. They went after him with sliders. I think when I watch Bellinger right now, I feel like he's catching up to the fastball, but slider speed is more of his bat speed right now as he tries to get where he's at. So I thought it was a strange approach to go after him with those kind of pitches. And once you get to 2-2, then you have to throw the slider for a strike. You can't bury it in the dirt, and that cost him right there. Throwing it for a strike, slider speed kind of swing, and he hit a bullet. And I'm so happy. Guys that have a horrible season, no one wants to play a whole season and fail. Nobody in the history of the game.
Right.
So to be able to come back and have a postseason like he's having so far, a great wild card game as well, is fun to watch.
Ron Darling, MLB on TBS analyst, is joining us here on your home of the Dodgers, AM 570 LA Sports. Ron will call the NLCS alongside Brian Anderson and Jeff Francoeur with Game 1 set for tomorrow night, exclusively on TV on TBS. First pitch is at 5:07. The Dodgers decided to go with Corey Knebel as the opener and wait to get to Julio Urias. It could have backfired on the Dodgers. It didn't. They've done this before where it takes one guy passing to the next guy and keep passing that baton, and all it takes is one hiccup. It can all fall apart, but it worked out for the Dodgers last night. Again, what did you make of that, Ron?
Well, think about it. I mean, the first 2 innings, the Giants really had some chances against Knebel and Gratterall. I think they opened themselves. I mean, can you imagine the kind of show you guys would have had this morning if it hadn't worked out? I mean, it would have been featured certainly on choosing an opener. But they did it last year in Game 7 of the NLCS. Remember Dustin May pitched an inning, and they moved through the bullpen. I think Dave Roberts and the Dodgers really don't care about criticism. They want to just do what they think is right to get 27 outs. Now, listen, Knebel, Gratterall, Urias, Jansen, and Trinan were going to appear in that game at some point. They just decided to flip the order to ensure that Urias would not go through the lineup twice. That's all they did. And it seems really controversial because we've seen small market teams, the Brewers and the Rays, they all do it. But to have the mighty Dodgers do it, I think really is a line in the sand, a line of demarcation that, this is where baseball's at. So you either get on this train or get off it.
Yeah, Ron, I wanted to ask you a question about this team, the Giants, and then a comment afterwards. Is first of all, I can tell you that I've often referred to the Giants this year as a ghost. I can't put my finger on the magic dust that's sprinkled on this team. Now, let me preface this by saying this team is the farthest thing from lucky. This is not a lucky team. This is a combination of guys that have found it, that had a chemistry that worked. I'm sure there was a great tenor set in the clubhouse, but it's everybody collectively playing at the same time, out of their minds, playing their best career games ever. And that's a scary thing when you can't put your finger on it. Look, with this same personnel, this team might finish third next year. That's not a knock on the team. It's a compliment to the team in what they're doing in the moment. What they did this year was absolutely phenomenal. Total respect for this Giants team. And secondly, I think it was great what Gabe Kapler did in postgame yesterday. The air of magnanimity that he showed towards the Dodgers was because of the contentious relationship that's been between the teams.
Yeah.
I thought really elevated everybody's game. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that because of the way they had the battle this season, that there has to be a mutual respect for each other.
Yes.
Because of the way a team that wins 107, a team that wins 106, the Dodgers never let up, the Giants never gave in. I think you're right. If you think about all the people who think they know baseball, you do, I think I do, all season long, I think if we were honest, we were thinking, okay, at some point the Giants are going to kind of fall out of the tree,
sure.
sort of like the Red Sox did, right?
Yeah.
The Red Sox got off to that great start and then had to really, really battle, and now they're in the ALCS. But that being said, I don't like this memory, but I remember a 1988 Dodger team that had great talent, but because of injuries, almost perfect season by Oral, and you guys pulled together in such a way and pulled it off. That's the great thing about sports is that if you do have that moment where you all mesh together and you all have each other's back and nobody is critical there's a real, I hate to say this word, but I think it's true. There's a real love for each other when you know you can back up each other. They had that this year. And when you have that, I don't care if that's baseball, life, business, whatever you do, that is magical, and don't ever discount that.
Final thing for me, Ron. Game 1 tomorrow night. Quick turnaround for this Dodgers team. The Braves have been sitting out waiting to see if they were going to travel or stay home for games 1 and 2. What do the Dodgers do? What does Dave Roberts do with Game 1? Is it Max Scherzer in bullpen? Does he go to Tony Gonsolin? What do you expect tomorrow night at 5:07 Pacific?
I think you're going to see a very interesting Game 1. I think you're going to have a bullpen game. I think Gonsolin's going to be the bulk guy as the Dodgers try to catch their breath and get their pitchers on their days. Buehler in Game 2, of course. But I think that's going to be the way they kind of go. These teams are pretty evenly matched if you look at their numbers against each other this season. They only played 6 games. But there's a lot to like about the Braves. They're a slugging kind of team. But, one thing I've learned about the Dodgers the last couple of seasons, because of all the stuff that they've gone through, good and bad, is that not only are they talented, but I think we dismiss how tough this team is. They're a very tough team, resilient, and they do not give in. And so if it's Game 1 and it's a bulk innings by Gonsolin and a bullpen game, that doesn't mean anything to them. They'll find a way to try to win it, and I think that's the best testament to Dave Roberts' tenure with this ball club.
Yeah, and running on the other side of that, as far as what they have to face in Max Fried, this guy led MLB with a .174 ERA after the All-Star game. He went 6 scoreless innings against the Braves and against the Brewers in Game 2 of the DS. And he allowed 1 or 0 runs in 3 of his 5 career postseason starts. I look at this as a daunting task, not insurmountable by the Dodgers. That this guy has been a phenomenal pitcher, especially the momentum that he really picked up after the All-Star break.
Well, I think in the future the Dodgers have to have a right to any kid that comes out of Harvard Westlake has to go to the Dodgers. You can't go anyplace else. I think that's the first thing. As far as Fried's concerned, if you look at his career, when he pitches, they win. Whether it's they get tons of runs or whatever, it's just kind of a magical thing when he pitches for that Braves team. So that'll be a great battle. But when I watch him pitch at his best with the curveball, cutter, and fastball, he reminds me of Kershaw Light. He's certainly not as good as the great Clayton, but he has that kind of arsenal to get hitters out, and he's a fantastic young pitcher. The Dodgers will have a real battle against him in the series.
He is Ron Darling from TBS. Check him out in the NLCS alongside Brian Anderson and Jeff Rancourt. Game 1 set for tomorrow. You'll watch it exclusively on TBS. First pitch at 5:07. Ron, we appreciate you getting up early doing this as you guys get ready to travel back to Atlanta for Game 1 tomorrow night. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, guys. Take care of Saxy.
You bet.
Guys, take care of Saxy.
You bet.
Guys, take care of